Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Paul Hall, 10th Man, Chocolate Sane, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome, one and all.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hello. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not from Sunset Strip, Los Angeles.
Not on Earth.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not
on Earth.
Is this going to be a repeated theme? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What is that?
Thought that'd catch you out. Hey, Owen.
The invisible force? The no force?
Well, what is these gravity you speak of? What is this?
Here, I'll help the Globers out. It started out as weight, then it became mass attracting mass. Now it's spindy space-time. So I'll help the Globers out a little bit.
That was good, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul. Go over it a little bit. It's nonsense you talk of.
What's weight? We have no idea because we don't know what mass is. If we don't know what mass is, how can we do mass attracts mass? And space-time is a concept, so how can that do anything?
Alrighty then. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Hypothesis would require them to have an independent variable. Can you have an independent variable with anything in the sky?
They can observe phenomena, but I don't know about varying something to cause that in the sky, light or whatever, to happen. I don't know about that.
Well, come on, we can observe, we can calculate, we can predict.
Can anybody hear me?
Now we can, Arwin, yes.
Jesus.
So, bro,
Google.
All good, we can hear you now. It's okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun, Arwin?
No, none whatsoever. Even though some people like to suggest, because they can't help it, that sunspots prove it's a ball. Even though those sunspots, I've seen that shit over time lapse. It moves like on a plate behind a cutout of the sun. It doesn't actually move in a spherical way with a slower sideward approach at the edges and faster motion, angular motion at the dead center. That doesn't happen with sunspots. If I remember correctly, remember with Paula's videos from way back?
Yeah, about
what's
5 years old.
Sunspot?
What's a sunspot? I have no idea. But if sunspots, then globe Earth, because sunspots, right?
No, just the sun. The people in my chat were insisting that the sun is actually a ball. We weren't even talking about Earth. But there's no proof. You can't approach it, whatever it may appear to you like. There's no proof it's a physical object in any sort of way. other than appearances.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
You mean a cartoon at the center of a cartoon? No.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
There's no way to demonstrate that. Even though some people think that the second law of thermodynamics is word soup, word salad, sorry. Even though they claim to be flat earthers, or sort of. I don't
Is there
know
an
what to
R
call them.
in that word salad? Any evidence of Earth radius? The R value?
Never.
Black Swan.
A shout out to Kim Robinson, who's just joined as a channel member. I think that concludes the housekeeping. Excellent stuff. Short and sweet.
Oh, this was fast compared to a few other days ago, right?
Yeah,
We're going
yesterday's.
nice and slow.
Yeah, yesterday's took half an hour. That's because it's a Monday. And there was a significant gap between shows. So in the pre-show, we played a clip by Quantum Eraser addressing, I think it was a dozen fallacies by a guy who goes by Rocket Scientist. Do any of the new panel members know who this Rocket Scientist is? I have no idea.
There's no such thing as rocket science. It falls under engineering.
Right, we covered that as well. Right, oxymoron. Indeed.
Chocolate's got to know who it is.
I don't know him. I heard him in the little clip. Something about 1,000 years of gravity and other such nonsense. I mean,
Indeed.
that's all I know about him.
Indeed. 1,000 years of scientific validity being offered for science of gravity when there is no science for gravity. Just classic stuff.
Yeah.
So you can just put science in the back of any statement, I guess, these days.
Right. And I see it frequently. People testing
Well,
a
then I
cable, they stick it on a meter, they test the impedance, they test the resistance, they test the capacitance, and then they call it science! Well, other people don't do the science with the cables, they just say they're wonderful. Me, I'm doing the science. No, you're not. You're just measuring stuff. That's maths. Same
Well,
with
when I'm
tyres.
looking on my
When I got the Lexus, shout out to all the people who supported me on GoFundMe about a year and a half ago. One of the things I looked into was tyres. Fascinating stuff that it is. I'm joking, by the way. Nevertheless, the amount of manufacturers that claim science because they've done a few road tests. You're like, what? How can you claim that as science? I understand that you're measuring how long it takes to brake and how long it takes to accelerate and how well you can take a corner and how many G's you'll pull, but that's still maths. It's not science. But they'll declare science has proven these tyres are better. No, it hasn't. Just nonsense.
So when I work on my greenhouse, that's not greenhouse science?
You can think of it as science.
Did the Lexus dealer offer you some tires without any rubber?
By Lexus dealer, do you mean man who sold me his wrecked, very tired old car in the street for under £1,000? That Lexus dealer.
Yeah, that's him. That's the one. It could be anybody. It could be a used car guy that's dealing a Lexus. So yeah, it could be anybody. Did they offer you some tires with any rubber?
Are you trying to get to, did they offer me gas pressure without a tyre? Is that what you're trying to drive at here? Is that where we're going?
Yeah, I'm driving down the road without any rubber on my tires.
No, but the actual person who fitted the tyres, I got Michelin Cross Climates, by the way, anybody who's interested in my tyre research. Anyway, yeah, they weren't capable of giving me the nice cushy gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of the tyre for the gas pressure to press upon. That would be a violation of natural law if they could offer it. So no, they definitely didn't offer any violations of natural law when fitting tyres. You can't have gas pressure without a container.
They probably gave you a leaky tire though, maybe. If you get any used ones, you might have had a leaky tire that has a small hole in it. That would still succumb to entropy over time.
But technically, you could class them all as being open systems. I mean, to a certain extent, no seal is going to be absolutely perfect. And to a certain degree, as you're bouncing over bumps and stuff, you're going to be opening and closing, to a certain degree, the seal that is there. So there is going to be a certain amount of gas escaping from any tyre. That's why you have to top them up, right? Well, that technically makes it an open system. The gas can escape. That's why you lose pressure. Now, it might be proportional to the hole that is there, and therefore still absolutely capable of being described by entropy, which is proportional to time. So obviously, if you've only got a tiny amount for the air to escape, entropy is going to take a long time to increase. But eventually the gas will fill the space, i.e. the tyre pressure will go down to zero relative to the pressure that it's surrounded by.
Well, but Nathan, even though there's just a little bit leaking over time, that's still considered approximately a closed system though, right? Wouldn't it be?
No, I said technically open, not closed. If you have a means of the matter, in this case the gas, escaping, then it's an open system. So you don't have a perfect seal on a tyre, therefore it technically is open.
I know, but just such a small amount, Nathan. It's not that much, but because it's such a small amount, we can consider it a closed system.
No,
Paul.
Didn't I just say that? Am I just repeating myself? What's going on?
Paul is playing Go Ahead. It's either open or closed, Paul.
Yeah, but
I mean globe head, Paul.
I said, but the Earth there's only so much little matter escaping. You can consider the Earth a closed system.
Oh, I see. It's considered closed, and like the tyre, if I accept your premise, which is to say that essentially, or let's just forget it and just, for the audience's benefit, let's pretend I've just inserted about half a dozen weasel words to say it's closed. So I can agree with your premise. So we've got my example saying, well, no, it's not really closed because it's got gaps that are letting a little bit of gas out. But essentially you're saying, well, no, but for the most part it's closed. Okay, well, where's the analogous tyre around Earth, Paul?
There's this thing called, I don't want to say it because I know what you'll do if I say it. That's what's going to keep it in place.
Say gravity one more time, motherfucker.
I think Jesse agrees with you.
You're going to have to do it though, Paul. You just bite the bullet, mate. You want to play baller, feel free.
It's a force that's not a force, but you can think of it as a force. Gravity.
Okay. Can you show it me?
Things fall down and go boom, boom. Ping pong balls in an aquarium. I have a basketball that falls down on the ground. That's gravity.
Right, but we're talking about tyre pressure with gas filling it and escaping through little tiny gaps. And my question is, what's the analogous tyre? Your answer to that is gas go down, go boom, boom like bouncy balls in a fish tank. Well, what about a helium balloon? Does that go down, go boom, boom?
Yeah, but what's the cause of that? What causes it to go up is gravity. It's the buoyancy. You understand this?
Yeah, you haven't shown it me yet. You can't just beg the question and say, well, the reason it goes up is gravity also. What's your proof of gravity? If gas go down, go boom, boom like bouncy balls in a fish tank isn't going to fly because gas doesn't behave that way. Fact. Gas is unbonded. But what's your actual proof of gravity? Can you show it me?
Well, they did this thing with balls in a shed. They did that thing. There's your proof.
That's 100 years out of date. It's been superseded. Debunked by a helium balloon. I'm just going over the same things. No, there isn't a mass attracting mass. Number one, what's mass? Number 2, that's not a scientifically valid experiment, as it claimed to be, therefore automatically pseudoscience. And number 4, it's been superseded by bending space-time. So gravity is not a force, as asserted by Newtonian / Cavendish / Reverend John Michel gravity, which is claimed to be a force. That's been superseded. Gravity is not a force. Quote, George Musa, 2019. Or, my preference, Professor Brian Cox. There isn't really a force of gravity at all. End quote. Or no, I'll get it correct. I've paraphrased that. That's incorrect. How does he say it? There isn't really a force of gravity at all. That's correct. There you go. Professor Brian Cox. Anything else? So we haven't got no analogous tyre then, Paul?
What's that again? I'm sorry. I'll send them down.
No tyre around a claim to be spherical Earth existing in a sky vacuum 10 to the minus 17 core. There isn't an analogous tyre. Bearing in mind that a tyre does actually simply have to have a few gaps for it to equalise with the surrounding air pressure, whereas Earth has no tyre around it. Go, Paul, go.
Jess is getting loud, so I can't talk. I can see it. I'm done. You got me.
Okay, fair enough. Did anybody else in Discord want to take up the gravity reins? Feel free.
No, there's not a lot to get a grip on. No, it's very elusive. Said it, when was it? Yesterday, 2 days ago? Gravity is like glue that never dries.
Is it? Can you show it me?
Yeah.
Can you show me this?
Well,
proof?
the ballers use it to stick it, to try to make things stick constantly. But every time it's proven, like, yeah, it doesn't really stick. And then they just try to glue something else back together. They constantly use gravity, move the argument. So it's like their glue, but it doesn't really stick, but they try to use it anyway.
I see. Like a better analogy would be Band-Aid. It's like a Band-Aid that's lost all its stick.
Right. I guess, yeah.
An invisible band-aid.
I don't know, it's done a pretty good job of soothing their pain. It's been a reasonably good painkiller up until now, right?
Well, they got a bigger owie now without the geometric horizon, so they need a better Band-Aid.
Does gravity ever get asserted in terms of the Black Swan? I don't know.
No, I'm saying because of the Black Swan killing the whole concept of a ball at a radius, they're going to need a bigger Band-Aid for gravity to have the limelight again. So to speak.
Oh, right. Yeah. I see what you mean. In terms of an injury, it's like losing a leg. Like having it just chopped off. And having a Band-Aid of gravity, yeah, it's not going to do much for that injury. You know, the patient, like, in this case, the globe, is going to bleed to death.
It's like all the arguments prior to now would be something akin to this. Okay, so the radius, we're wrong. It's not 1.2, but we still got gravity. Well, if you don't have a radius, what's the use of gravity? We ain't spinning. We're not on a ball.
Well, I think I'm predict, because there is this thing called gravitational lensing that they could apply to the R value. They could do that, technically.
Paul, please express why they have hijacked the word gravitational in front of lensing when it should be called something else, lensing. Why they put gravitational there instead? Why do they do that?
Because gravity is supposed to bend space-time and cause things to go around objects. It's like,
no, gravity doesn't bend
refraction does.
space-time. Gravity is supposedly an effect of the bending of space-time.
It's getting loud back here. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, so what is this gravitational lensing, Nathan? What are they trying to say there by putting a word that doesn't belong in front of lensing when you're viewing things between, say, like two mountains or whatever they try to do there?
Yeah, that's just attributing yet another thing to something they don't have to make it confusing.
And that's what I thought, because if it's a force that's not a force, and it's, how is it affecting lensing? And why would they put gravitational lensing? It's like, next thing you know, they'll have gravitational hash browns and eggs for breakfast. Everything just to remind us of gravity. Just put it in front of things and condition people that it's actually there is the reason I think it's there. But it has nothing to do with what they're talking about.
They kind of do, though, don't
Well,
they? It's used in the
I
language.
was thinking about.
Go on, Chocolate.
I said that they have to have a big G, no matter what. Everybody has to have some kind of G that they worship, and their G is gravity.
Okay, so that Chocolate, what were you going to say before I respond?
I was going to say, why does any of that surprise you? They think that concepts can bend and warp and distribute unevenly. Why would anything they say surprise you at all? How does space and time, two concepts that they merge into one concept, bend and warp anything? Or how does that work?
Can you expand on that a little bit better? So a concept, something that's not real, is supposed to be causing something real? Is that what you're trying to say? They say?
Yeah. Take the concept of time, take the concept of space, put it together and tell you, oh, this conceptual medium is somehow bending and warping and causing things to fall.
So they're attributing causal power to time.
Yeah.
How do you
And space.
Yeah, and so how are they getting causal power out of a concept? Is what you're really saying?
Yep. Pretty much.
Well, that's as hard as gas pressure without a container. I mean, how do you do that?
I don't know, my friend.
Well, time will tell, Chocolate.
That concept of time.
You think about it, right? I mean, all the times you've heard, well, time will tell. When people say time will tell, what are they saying? Well, let me give you an example. So if a father is instructing a young child on some matter and the child's being stubborn, the father would say, all right, you go ahead, keep doing it. Time will tell. What's he really saying? He's really saying, I've been around before you. I know what you're doing is not going to work. And since you're so stubborn, you're not listening to me, I'll just watch you fail. Because in time, as you go proceed with the wrong methods on this project, you're going to fail. Now, he's not actually saying time is going to do it. He's just, the kid's going to figure it out when he actually experiences failure because his methodology is wrong. But we say time will tell.
Well, one of my favorite definition of time is that the progression of existence. Can you manipulate the progression of existence?
Well, I've never heard that.
Yeah. You look it up. It's one of the definitions of time. And I think actually Zanuck said that one time to us. I said, oh, the progression of existence. Can you manipulate the progression of existence? And he said no. Like, okay, thanks. Time can't be an independent variable then. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, that's when they said time was the independent variable. Yeah.
Then it's not science, right?
Well, it's secondhand science for them. Gee, that was a good pun, and no one got that one.
Boom, boom.
TikTok.
I'm thinking that so when they talk about independent variable, they're actually not talking about causes. because I hear them talking more about, oh, that's an effect, or this is this. So even like it takes time, like I'm putting sausage in the oven, like there's time involved in that, but it's kind of the effect of the cooking process. But the time in the oven did not cause the cooking process. Does that make sense? And I think they conflate those two. So there's no technically in their mind, if there's always a independent variable that's more of an effect, there is no cause. Everything's just effects.
Yeah, they'll use a bait and switch. So they'll substitute in what is an effect. Whether or not it's observed is kind of beside the point. For what they will say is something quantitative. So they can describe how much of something has happened over a period of time, and therefore ham-handedly swindle you into believing that that's the independent variable, that time is the independent variable, because they can give you a quantitative account with mathematics. That's what they do.
So it can be an independent variable in mathematics, but not in physics, right?
Well, it's held constant if you're dealing with a reaction. How much of the reaction you could qualify thereafter, but ultimately you're trying to establish the cause. So if you haven't actually verified your independent variable, the simplistic example of this would be that you see a boiling hot spring and try and figure out the cause. Well, if you don't actually do any experimentation and just decide that the cause is going to be acid, and then you start to describe mathematically how much of the cause is going to occur based on the acid content of the water, you can describe all day how much, let's say it's the evaporation level that you're looking at, how much gas is produced from the water based on the acidity of the water. Well, you haven't actually validated anything with science, so you're just wrong. Well, the maths might add up perfectly, based on your assumption that acid's causing the water to boil off. Well, it isn't. But that's where science isn't about the amount that is occurring, it's about the cause of what made the thing actually occur. So in this example, heat, well, you could qualify with time how much of the water boils off. But the cause is what you're looking for in terms of the physical reality that we're faced with and the cause of an effect that you observe in nature. So you're ultimately always going to be trying to find what caused it. How much it causes it, you can only establish once you've got the cause of the effect.
So in a way, like the sausage, I could put it at 250, it'll take longer to cook because it's a slower temperature, but I put it at 400, it'll be quicker to cook, but of course it might not cook thoroughly because it depends on the size of the sausage or size of whatever I'm cooking. So there is ultimately it's the heat that is doing the cooking, not the time, right?
But if you asserted temperature, so if I then reduce that down to the temperature of your fridge, 2 or 3 degrees centigrade, will that affect how long it takes to cook?
I'm reducing the temperature in my fridge down lower.
I'm just saying it's not temperature versus time, because even then you go beyond a certain point and you don't get the cause anymore. Whereas heat will always be the cause of that sausage to be cooked. Maybe you'll observe that in nature. We'll give you a pass just for the sake of this example. But my point is that, your qualitative measure is going to be the amount of cooking that's taken place based on the time and the temperature in your example. Whereas heat is the actual cause of it cooking. Or boiling water is better because you do actually observe that in nature, but it's the same thing.
I was like, you could technically see some meat cooking in nature because lightning can strike a tree, catch a forest on fire, and look over and you see the deer burning and cooking in the fire. So you could technically see that in nature.
I suppose you could go into a forest fire and say, look at that there, pig squealing in agony. Oh, it's actually quite tasty now it's all died down. I wonder what caused that after watching it roast to death. No, but yes, I see. You could swindle it into and observe phenomena that you saw in nature. Yes, I understand, Paul. With a few steps that were probably quite gruesome.
I actually roasted a globalist this morning about that because he was talking about how flat earthers are holding humanity back from manned space flight.
You roasted, eh? Boom, boom.
Yeah, because I cooked them. I cooked that goose.
Say again, Chris.
Well, because he was basically saying that flat earthers deny. Oh, did I talk over someone?
No. Carry on.
Okay, so basically he was saying that flat earthers say that time can't be a variable. I go, well, that I guess from the globalist point of view, that's why manned space flight abruptly ends in 1972, because time's the cause.
Time caused this man-made event to stop happening, did it?
Yeah, and it also caused it to begin. So the cause is time, the effect is manned spaceflight. That's why manned spaceflight only exists from 1969 to 1972. Because time.
Because time. This is total nonsense. Did somebody actually assert this?
It is. Yeah, they did. Their original absurdity was that flat earthers are the ones responsible for why manned spaceflight stopped in 1972. And then he gave a description about a flat earther being in chemistry class about.
So they looked into the future and noticed that flat Earth was going to be popular, and it's our fault. That's why they discontinued.
No, flat Earth was prevalent around that sort of time as well. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, shocker to me too when I saw the clips and the interviews and the appearances on game shows. But yeah, flat earthers were out and about. There was big billboards around and about. Shockingly similar stuff to we have now, weird as it may sound, with billboard
What
advertisements and stuff like that. But there we go. Yes, indeed.
So what happened to them?
Can I remind you that Calvin and Martin Luther both fought against this globe nonsense?
What happened to him, Arwen, is that because of Nixon's war against communism and Nixon's lunar mission, it was like a really kind of a slight if you were calling out the Apollo program. It was almost like you were a communist, because if you were going against American supremacy of space, there must be something wrong with your patriotism.
Well, it's interesting that
My mic working?
Yes, Neil.
yeah, go on, Neil.
So you're saying he was basically cracking down on flat earthers?
Sounds like Neil to me.
Hold on, let's just round out this conversation. We'll go to you in a sec, Neil. Okay, feel free to respond to Arwen, Crit.
Oh, okay, yeah. It really appeared like he was cracking down on all speech. It wasn't just flat Earth speech. It was like any speech that was even slightly critical of the government. Bang, that person's a communist. And that's kind of why I think it dried up. A lot of alternative points of view, were kind of marginalized under the threat. Like now today, like terrorism, people would just say, "Oh, that's a terroristic threat," or that is, like the same sort of fear porn that they used back then is the same. They just changed the word to what to be afraid of.
So would you suggest that in the same way that if you're going to push the idea of having terrorism, you need a terrorist of sorts to point to say this is what a terrorist is, and in the same way you're saying, or I would say, that you need to be able to point out what a flat earther is in order to be able to keep it suppressed and ridiculed in the mind's eye of the general populace. In other words, they need to be vaguely aware that there's a thing out there called a flat earther and they need to be ridiculed. Well, if they're so underground that no one ever sees them, hears from them, or sees, then they're never going to be able to keep the general gist of the programming that this is deserving of ridicule, because who's there to actually have it pushed out there? Maybe every so often it drops off so much that they have to put it out a bit themselves with controlled up narratives, just to get people back interested in it enough so that the general public can see it being ridiculed. I'm just speculating. To a certain degree, I am of the opinion, though, that a lot of this information is going to be controlled opposition, because that's how any information's put out there. It doesn't seem to matter what it is. There's going to be both sides controlled by whoever's controlling information in general.
Nathan, if I'm hearing this right, I was 10 years old in 1969.
Before you get into it, I'm 10 years old, 1969. Neil's been waiting. Go ahead, Neil. I know you've got something to add.
No, I was just saying, everybody's surprised that there was flat earth in the 70s, 60s, but you had the church fathers fighting against it. John Calvin, Martin Luther, they all fought against the heliocentric model.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, they did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I read I've actually read the quote where Martin Luther actually is talking about Copernicanism. I actually read that quote. I'll have to go find it and dig it out, and I'll start
Yeah, that'd
share
be
it.
great, because this is news to me. Did not know that. Go ahead, 10th man. You were about to tell us about...
You're kidding, right?
The year was
Are you-
1969. 10th man was a 10-year-old little fuzzy little sod running around causing trouble.
That was that part for sure.
It was a dark and stormy night.
No, that was it.
Electricity has recently been invented.
Southern California. I was living in Southern California, in Long Beach, California, and we watched the moon landing on TV. You know, the whole original rebroadcast of the rebroadcast of the rebroadcast of the rebroadcast. No live feed, of course.
That sounds original.
Yeah, that's very original. And so, if I'm hearing, I can't remember the guy who was talking. Is it Chris or what was? Who's the guy talking? What? Chris. Okay. Yeah. There was no flat Earth. There was no any mention of flat Earth and the Apollo missions or anything, because I mean, this baller who said that it was because of the flat earthers or whatever, I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, today we know they're getting $59 million a day, NASA that is, and back then they were getting a huge sum of money as well, obviously. And how much was Flat Earth opposition group getting per day to cause this?
Well, it wasn't, but it was still kept out in the mind's eye of the public. So around about that sort of time, I think it was the $6 Million Man or something like that. I certainly know the actor.
Yeah, Lee Majors was the $6 Million Man, followed by the Bionic Woman.
Bear with me.
Yes, well,
so there's a clip where William Shatner's in it, and he's going to space, and he's talking about Earth being flat from his vantage point up in space. They ask him what it looks like, and he says it's flat. It's flat.
Yes, that's fine, and that's in a movie scene. But what was Crit saying that the baller was suggesting at that time, that this was flat earthers holding back humanity? I mean, what's going on here?
Oh, no. Yeah, today in 2020, he basically says because flat earthers won't recognize time as a independent or dependent variable, it's flat earthers' fault that manned spaceflight ended in 1972.
Now that's so comical. I mean,
wow.
That is so comical.
That sounds delusional.
No, we just debunked space.
You got to get that one.
So, no, in terms of the 2020 position, no, space flight, manned or otherwise, never existed because space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we're breathing would fill that space. So that space is space in this example. So space, no, there hasn't been any space travel, ever.
The whole thing is nonsense. How are we holding anything back?
Yeah, I got nothing to do with that. Whatever the government is doing, the government's going to do, if I like it or not. Okay, my speech here on Discord is not changing anything at all. Oh, sorry, Neil. Go ahead.
I was just saying, we can't hold back the government from doing anything, so that's a bunch of shite.
Is that what you want to achieve, though?
It's fear porn.
Is that what you actually want to achieve?
Awareness, really.
No,
I mean, just
no. I see it. I see it the other way around. The body that's receiving $59 million a day, they're the ones holding people back. They got the money and the resources. Flat earthers don't have resources to hold anything back.
We've now just transposed it onto the people at large. It's the same question to you then, 10th Man. So your objective would be to change how the clearly psychopathic liars disseminate their information to the masses. That's your primary concern, is it?
No, not. I can't say it's my primary concern, but on this topic and staying in context to the topic, that baller that is being referred to as saying that flat earthers are holding, science back or truth back. That's so much nonsense. I'm applying it just to that because, number one, when was flat earth? Well, first of all, we didn't have internet back then. We didn't have shows you can go on and talk about it. I mean, you can call in, I guess, on a radio show, but I don't recall any radio shows talking about the subject, come across my way. And so up until what, 2015-ish or whatever, now we actually get on the airwaves in various means to discuss the matter, just to discuss the matter, and everybody is self-funded or has to have support to keep their shows going because it's not getting $59 million a day. I mean, so I don't even know what this guy is saying as to the effect. But to your question, it's a one-off thing. It's if I meet a person and they want to enter a conversation on any subject, if I sense something's not true, I'm going to ask a question back to them about it. Why do you think that's true? And then wherever that goes, that goes.
That's funny because every time I've asked somebody, why haven't we gone back to the quote unquote moon since 1972, I've never told, oh, because of flat earthers. As a matter of fact, one of these guys are on film saying, oh, I'd go back to the moon in a nanosecond, but we destroyed that technology and it's a painful process to bring it back. I don't remember him saying, oh, these damn flat earthers took away our technology and apparently we just can't make it back to the moon where we went 6 times back and forth in the second law of thermodynamics violation.
I've heard
Yeah.
Globers say that, well, why would we go back? We went up there, we researched it, we're done. I've actually heard Globers on Discord say that. Why would we
I
ever
love when people do that shit. Oh, because I should just disregard all the documentaries I watched where they were supposed to be bases on the moon. We're going to go find helium-3 and all this other shit, right? Yeah, I guess we just gave that up. Said, nah, we might as well just focus on Mars or something. Like, people that say shit like that, they're just fooling themselves, man. It's pretty sad.
Secret alien bases on the dark side of the moon with all the glass tubes and the mysterious lights and yeah.
Hey, I don't even know
Anybody
why
thinks that that's real, and
I
not
thought it
one
was
other
real.
country, not one other country has even bothered to try to put a guy on the moon, or a woman, or a dog, or something. I mean, the space race. Oh, Russia, and then what? America gets there, and then Russia just gives up. Oh shit! Look, they made it.
I just
It's a
thought of a
joke,
counter argument. We Admiral Byrd went down there and explored Antarctica back in the 40s or 50s, right? We need all this exploration. So, okay, he's done all the work. We're done. So we don't need to have any science research station down there. We don't know how to. We need to pull everybody out because Admiral Byrd did it back in the 50s. So we're done, right? Is that the same argument?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, chocolate.
How do you know?
You don't think
yeah.
you think it's a coincidence? Sorry, Nathan. Go ahead.
I was just. So Admiral Byrd did what now?
Admiral Byrd went in there and explored Antarctica. He explored it. You know, Operation High Jump, with Operation Deep Freeze. Went down there, they explored Antarctica. So why should anybody else have to go down there after that?
Why should you accept that at face value? Part
Well,
of the
I'm not accepting
propaganda.
this at face value.
I'm just saying it's part of the propaganda, though, isn't he? This whole Admiral Byrd thing is part of the propaganda.
Are you saying he did? Are you saying he didn't go down there?
I see the propaganda as sort of linked though, because he came back with his. I mean, you can think of it as propaganda or not, right? But he was on television talking about, finding an expanse of land the size of the continental United States that no one has discovered, and all of this, and that it should be very interesting for resources and all this, and he expects the whole world to be interested in it. And then right after that, it gets shut down. Antarctic Treaty goes up, and then soon after that, NASA's formed. Do I take all of that as a coincidence? Not really.
Well, I just accept the fact that I'm dealing with magicians. So, how does a magic trick work? Well, they put one hand over here and go, look over here, look over here, look over here. Well, they're picking your pocket. Right? So, you're showing me something that's just, to me, maybe I'm going to be completely obliterated in the comment section after this goes out. People are going, no, fact, Admiral Byrd, truth, and absolutely justified in every... Maybe. But I just say that's got red flags all over it to me.
I see where you're going with it, Nathan.
Me too.
I see where you're going with it, but it could be that what you're saying still occurred by what Chocolate said happened right afterwards. So they don't want us to know about it. So that's the magician's trick is, okay, look, we stumbled on something we don't want the people to really know, so let's do this.
Really? Why have you drawn that conclusion? Why have you drawn that conclusion? Why have you drawn that conclusion? Why have you drawn this conclusion that there's something that we shouldn't know about? When we're being told about it and told how we shouldn't know about it?
No, let me go back. Let me go back to your statement because it's off of your statement. So you're saying, at least the way I heard it, is that they put that out there and that the Admiral Byrd story isn't quite what it's made out to be. Isn't that what you were saying?
I'm saying that any good magician will show you it's a distraction. Show you something that you look at so that you don't look over in the other direction. Well, your attitude is that there's something in Antarctica that we all need to pay close attention to. Because someone said, maybe you should or shouldn't pay close attention to this thing I'm showing you and this area we're talking about that's very important. Shh. And I go, what?
No,
Alarm bells. Woo, 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 woo. Hold on. Why am I accepting any of this?
Okay, that's one option. And it's a good one. But the other option is it is as it reads. He went down there. He came back. He went down there more than once. There's people who've gone down there. There's people down there now. So the whole point is the story could be as it reads, and then they don't want any more to come out of it. As Chocolate described, the time sequences of the different things as he was going through it. So did Admiral Byrd actually go there? Did he step on that big block of ice down there? Did he explore it? Were there airplanes flying there?
Well, here we go. More assumptions. What big block of ice? Down where?
Of course, I'm not saying it that way, but I'm just saying he went to a place called Antarctica. And it was, how could I put it? Spouted off in the newspapers. That big vehicle they made, that made headlines, and they were showing pictures of that. And I know a person's father who actually went and saw that thing, the actual vehicle that was made for him to traverse the ice caps and so forth. So let's say Admiral Byrd went to a place called Antarctica, wherever it is. What's so wrong with that? And why would they...
Well, because even in that supposition, what's Antarctica? And wherever that may be? Where is that, wherever that may be?
That's not part of my statement, though.
Well, it's part of the story. It's critical to the story, though, isn't it? It's critical to the Admiral Byrd narrative.
No, but I'm discussing the part that did he go somewhere? I'm not saying where somewhere is. Or was it all made up, are you saying? Was it a backlot of a Hollywood studio? Is that what you're saying?
Let me just shout out this super chat. FlatEarthChannel.com, thank you very much indeed for your super chat. Have you guys seen the Flat Earth map on the moon? Check out Sterigos Studio 10. That's STERGIOS Studio 10. Thank you very much for the super chat. No, I haven't.
I've never even heard of that.
Well, hopefully somebody will go their way. Maybe it'll be me if I remember after we've had this heated conversation about Admiral Byrd and the validity of anything he says about anywhere he's stating he may or may not have been. If he even exists, he might just be a character for all I know, just to throw that out there as well.
Yeah, well, see, you tend to go that route. I don't go fully that route. I do know there are tricks being played on humanity, though. But I don't go as far as to say that certain things didn't actually happen, and then they took steps to not let it leak out as to what the actual events and findings were. I think the government hides a lot of things on purpose. As to pre-programming one generation over another generation to these different levels, some things, yes, but not everything.
Okay. I mean, generally speaking, my attitude is like that because the application of my logic is, if I saw that on TV today, which I wouldn't because I don't watch TV, I would automatically call bullshit, right? Regardless, I'd just be like, yeah, this is here for us to be programmed with, therefore bullshit. Now, I think there's even a term for it in the conspiracy circles, auto-hoaxer, right? Now, I'm sick of auto hoaxing. So I would rather just not be subjected to it. So I have to call bullshit, right? If something directly affects me, I'll look into it. Like the law changes back in January. Or was it December? I think it was January. Soon after Corona was announced to the public, there was law changes. I looked into that because it directly affected me. As for the propaganda, couldn't care less. I'd rather not be subjected to it so I can just avoid having to go, yeah, that's bullshit. Because that's what I do. I've summarised that so I can explain Admiral Byrd. The logic is then applied to that. If I was to watch that on TV today, I'd apply the same logic. Therefore, what do I believe of this Admiral and what he says about a place that is apparently really important but we can't go, right? Well, what would I think about it? I'd think bullshit. Why am I having my attention directed to this? And why is it seemingly secretive? Why have we got the information about high jump and fishbowl? Why do we even know about that?
Well, because it happened right after the war, and the Nazis were claimed to have gone there.
Oh my
and
God!
At the time, hang on. So again, an event. Let's assume it all happened. Let's just go this route for a minute.
Why? Let's just assume everything you've said is irrelevant. Let's just assume it's all true.
No, stop trying to make Nathan presuppose things. He doesn't want.
I'm not saying Nathan assume. I'll assume it. Okay, is that good enough for you, Arwen? I'll assume it.
You'll assume everything you see on TV is true. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm not. That's my. See, you cut me off before I get to my finish. That's not right. So, if those events actually took place, right? And that's where I said, let's just assume they did for argument's sake, if we could. I mean, we assume a lot of other things with ballers here. Let's just try this one for a change. And then they don't want people to know about it because of how Admiral Byrd came back and reported his findings. Well, they're going to hush it and do what Chocolate said happened afterwards. That could be equally as true as what you're saying. That, for example, I'll give you an example here. They say that Joe Biden is ahead in polls against Donald Trump. Now, this is the most asinine thing anyone could ever believe coming out of that boob tube. And here's why. Trump fills arenas with people with lines standing outside for every talk he gives. Biden can't even get a crowd of 12 people. Now, among many other issues, we know that polling is a lie because it's obvious to all when on the TV you see Trump rallies and you see no Biden rallies. There's no way the polling matches the people size. So yes, is the TV being used to disseminate false information, to make people think a certain way? All the time. That's why I do dismiss most everything on the TV until proven. But that doesn't mean at that time in history, when TV was in its infancy and these things were happening before NASA got its legs up and all of the other control systems were in place, that these things didn't actually happen. That's all I'm saying.
Beautiful word for me to segue. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past.
Well, that's why I believe in the Bible, because it controls the future.
Well, I would agree.
Hold on.
It could have gone.
Sorry, Chocolate, go on.
I was just going to say, I could agree it could go either way. It was either blatant propaganda that was just put out there for us to just believe some nonsense, or maybe he did actually do that and then came out on television and, spilled the beans, so to say, and, they were just scrambling around like, oh, shit, what do we do? This guy's out here talking about all this nonsense. And then now I have to look at what happens after that, because then was it 59? They signed the Antarctic Treaty, and then in 61 it goes effective, right? And then what happens, in that same decade? Then NASA gets formed, right? So I completely understand what Tough Man is saying. It's like, look at the progression of events, right? Look how that happened. Now, obviously, yeah, it could be full of shit. But why is it being perpetuated out there like that? That's the question you got to ask.
How it's perpetuated is part of the manipulation. So, who's controlling the timeline that we're seeing now in the present about the past? Well, how that's presented and how it's pushed upon us in the first instance when it comes out, the timing and all that, that's all based in propaganda. Now, the information itself is questionable at best when it first comes out. But even then, I've already given you my standards, so I won't repeat them. But even then, it's so questionable to look at it now in the present and go, let's look at the validity and the timeline that we're presented with in terms of the Antarctic Treaty, in terms of NASA's formation, in terms of Admiral Byrd. That's all given to us in the present and formatted for us in the present by whoever controls the present.
But no one controls the present.
Yeah, they do. Are you having me on?
No, they try. They try, but they don't control the present. Do they control? You wouldn't be speaking the way you are if they controlled the present. You are independent.
No, there's certain aspects that they can't control. But ultimately speaking, I've already postulated on this very show that we could be part of a controlled release of the information, tolerated because we're here to be ridiculed for the sake of argument. Well, in that case, ultimately there's going to be a level of control over us even if we don't appreciate it.
You can go so many different routes with one topic like we're doing now. And it's good to go through each one. But I don't fall in the same category as you as to believing they control everything. They try to control everything. I see them controlling things. I see the effect they have on people who won't go check out sources to make sure the news is valid or invalid. That I see all day long, and I'm bringing news to people and waking people up just like everyone on this panel. But as to there's no truth in this world to be sought after that's real because everything is propagandized and everything is a trick, no, I don't believe that. I think there is a trick, but I think people can see through it as well.
Okay, but in this case we can just take it as read that Admiral Byrd went to this place called Antarctica, as described by them, as a bit of land on the bottom of a ball. Had a weird description of it, but fishbowl and high jump and blah blah blah. We should be concerned about it, right?
What about all that land he found beyond?
What actual point are you making though with that? Just because they have names for operations called high jump and fishbowl, that doesn't change anything for me.
Part of the propaganda is my point. Just a quick shout out to theflatearthchannel.com. He says the UN flag is a distraction to make us think the truth is hidden in plain sight, but in reality, we have much more land according to the moon map. Check it out. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, you just, no offense to your flatearthchannel.com, I really do appreciate the super chat, but ultimately speaking, all of these models are just pseudoscience and there's tens of thousands of them.
Who found the moon map?
Who found the moon map? I don't know.
Is that a map they found on the moon?
I don't know. If you take it literally, I guess so, Arwin.
But does that mean that the moon is a physical object after all? If they found a map,
I'm sure we'll find out in the after show. So with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Another massive thank you to all of you in the live stream for smashing the super chat, hopefully sharing the show. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!